cheating billionaire hugs his mistress in public, but his pregnant wife is standing right behind him. Betrayal doesn't always happen in hushed corners or through cryptic phone calls. Sometimes it's brazen, right out in the open. When billionaire Henry Lancaster, revered for his philanthropic gestures and dazzling wealth, was caught hugging his glamorous mistress in a crowded five-star hotel lobby, onlookers were stunned. Little did he know his pregnant wife, Regina, stood just steps away, witnessing the embrace that would shatter her world. But Regina Lancaster wasn't about to crumble quietly. Beneath her dignified silence lay a storm of heartbreak, fury, and cunning. Keep watching as we unravel how a single moment exposed hidden deceit and triggered a spectacular chain of events. Henry Lancaster was no ordinary tycoon. Born into old money elegance, he had turned his inheritance into a global real estate empire, adding hotels from Monte Carlo to Manhattan to the Lancaster portfolio. In his mid-30s, tall and striking, he combined old-world aristocratic charm with modern swagger. The tabloids loved him, the billionaire philanthropist, London's golden son, America's real estate hotshot. He was often photographed at galas, cutting ribbons at new children's hospitals or hosting exclusive parties at his Hampton estate. His wife, Regina Lancaster, formerly Regina Doyle, came from more humble origins in the outskirts of Dublin. Unlike Henry, she had worked her way through college on scholarships, eventually earning an MBA from Oxford. Soft-spoken yet incisively intelligent, Regina met Henry when both volunteered at a fundraiser in London. Sparks flew, and within a year they were married in a spectacular ceremony at Highclere Castle, complete with a performance by Andrea Bocelli. The wedding photos graced the pages of Hello and Vogue, cementing their status as a fairy tale couple. Yet, beneath the veneer of fairy tale perfection, Regina felt uncertain. Over the past few months, Henry had grown distant. Where once they laughed over coffee in the morning, now he buried himself in phone calls with investors in Dubai or Shanghai. His evenings extended into nights spent networking, leaving Regina alone in their penthouse on Park Avenue. Whenever she voiced concern, he brushed it aside. It's just business. She wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him, especially now that she carried their first child. Regina, in her second trimester, had shared the news of her pregnancy only a month prior. Henry seemed happy, at least initially, showering her with gifts, a Tiffany charm bracelet, a promise to convert one room in the penthouse into a whimsical nursery. But then he'd become cagey. Her inquiries about his schedule were met with tight-lipped deflections. The house staff, once so warm, began acting nervous, as if they sensed secrets in the air. One rainy afternoon, Regina was going through a stack of business envelopes on their foyer table, Henry's routine FedEx deliveries. Beneath them lay a sleek black envelope addressed to him, sealed with a golden heart sticker. Regina paused. Henry never received personal letters at the penthouse. That was unusual. She wanted to open it, curiosity tugging at her. But instead, she left it on Henry's desk. She didn't want to become the paranoid wife rummaging through her husband's mail. She'd always believed in honesty and trust, valuing each other's privacy. Later that evening, Henry tore into the black envelope, unaware Regina observed him from the doorway. He read something with an indecipherable expression before tucking it away. He straightened his tie, gazed at Regina with a forced smile, and announced he was heading out to meet a potential investor for drinks. She nodded, unsettled. The door closed behind him, and with it came the first pang of dread that something more sinister than just business was unraveling. Regina woke the next morning to the persistent hum of Henry's phone on the bedside table. Normally he guarded it closely, but he had come home the previous night well past midnight. Exhausted and perhaps a little drunk, she reached over groggily. The name on the screen read Naomi Chow. The number was new to her. Setting the phone down, Regina took a breath and reminded herself not to jump to conclusions. She had known Henry to work with countless big-name celebrities, tycoons and socialites through his philanthropic circles. Naomi Chow could be a new investor or a fashion icon interested in hosting a charity. Still, the uneasy feeling in her gut returned. After breakfast, Henry rushed out, muttering he had a last-minute meeting and that he would call her later. He left behind the phone that kept ringing. Regina stared at it on the marble countertop, torn between respecting Henry's privacy and the gnawing sense. Something was off. Finally, she decided to answer. "Hello?" she ventured, a voice soft. A pause on the other end, then a silky tone. "Henry, is that you?" Regina's mouth went dry. "I'm his wife. May I ask who's calling?" A clatter, like someone dropping a pen, then a sudden beep. The call ended. Regina's hand trembled as she set down the phone. A swirl of emotions churned: anger, fear, heartbreak. She told herself it might be innocent, but the tension in the woman's voice suggested otherwise. Later that day, her friend Emily Thompson, an old acquaintance from Westport, Connecticut, known for her straightforward advice, popped by for lunch. In the privacy of the penthouse living room, with city traffic roaring 30 stories below, Regina confided her worries: the black envelope, the mysterious phone calls, Henry's late nights. Emily's brow furrowed. "I don't want to alarm you, but you have every right to be worried," she said bluntly. "Henry might be a billionaire, but that doesn't make him immune to temptation. You need to figure out what's really going on. Maybe hire a private investigator, someone discreet." Regina stiffened. A private investigator? The notion felt invasive, yet the fear of betrayal gnawed at her heart. She imagined Henry's reaction if she told him she'd stooped to spying. On the other hand, every day she felt more and more alone in this gilded cage. I'll think about it," Regina said, voice quivering. True to her word, Regina did think about it constantly, in fact. She spent nights staring at the ceiling, her hand resting protectively over her growing belly. If Henry was cheating, how far had it gone? Was Naomi Chow just an emotional fling or something deeper? One evening, taking advantage of Henry's claimed business trip to Hong Kong, Regina reached out to an investigator recommended by Emily. His name was Solomon Gray, known among the New York elite for his discretion and results. When Regina emailed him, she was surprised at how quickly he replied. "Let's meet," he wrote simply. 2 days later, in a dimly lit corner of a quiet cafe on the Upper West Side, Regina handed Solomon the details she had. Henry's routine, his known associates, the suspicious phone number, and all the addresses of his properties. Solomon listened, took notes, and offered a reassuring nod. "Miss S. Lancaster. If there's something to find, I'll find it. But I must warn you sometimes, the truth hurts more than not knowing." Regina looked away, her eyes prickling with tears. She refused to shed. "Just do whatever it takes," she managed. "I need to know. My baby deserves the truth." In the days that followed, Regina poured herself into the routine of pregnancy, from prenatal yoga classes to doctor's visits at Mount Sinai. For a few hours each day, she allowed herself to forget the swirling doubts, focusing instead on the promise of new life within her. Yet Henry's continued absences made it impossible to fully ignore her suspicions. Then, one crisp afternoon, Solomon Gray requested a meeting in Central Park. Regina hesitated. Clandestine meetups felt like a step into a spy novel. Nevertheless, she agreed. She left the penthouse in a simple grey coat and a wide-brimmed hat, hoping to go unrecognized. The tabloids usually photographed her in designer gowns at gala events, not wandering the park alone. Still, she was cautious. She found Solomon by the Bethesda terrace, leaning casually against a balustrade. A pair of joggers passed them, paying no mind. Solomon gestured for Regina to follow him down a path lined with yellowing leaves. "I've got something," he said in a low voice, once they were away from prying ears. He passed her a small envelope. Photos, dates, locations. It's not conclusive, but it's a pattern. Henry's not traveling alone on some of these business trips. Regina's heart sank. She opened the envelope with trembling fingers, glimpsing a few snapshots. Henry, in a tailored suit, stepping into a luxury sedan. Next photo, the same sedan, but with a sleek-haired woman climbing out the other side. The woman's profile was partially obscured, yet Regina recognized her from the magazine cover's Naomi Chow, a rising star in the art world who had turned heads with her contemporary sculptures made of glass and metal. "She's quite the social climber," Solomon continued quietly. "She's known in certain circles for strategic relationships. I've also got records of their hotel bookings. London, Hong Kong, even a weekend in Miami. All under corporate accounts. But it doesn't take much to connect the dots. I suspect they're more than business partners." Regina swallowed hard, fighting the sting of tears. A swirl of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak coursed through her. She had suspected an affair, but seeing proof was a punch to the gut. Yet she forced herself to ask, "Anything else?" Solomon hesitated. Her background is complicated. She's had affairs with at least 2 high-profile entrepreneurs before Henry I led to a messy scandal that nearly cost the man his fortune. She might be after more than just romance here. Maybe she's looking to invest or is using Henry for her own leverage. It's not clear yet. Regina closed the envelope, her voice shaking. "Keep digging," she said. "I need everything you can find, especially if it can protect me, protect my child." Solomon nodded, his expression gentler. "I understand this is difficult. If it's any consolation, you're not the first society wife in this predicament. But let me warn you, if you want to confront him, do it with caution. Men like Henry rarely go down without a fight." Regina could only offer a faint smile of gratitude. She glanced at her belly, steeling herself. So far, her entire world had revolved around Henry Lancaster's empire. But she was starting to see that if she didn't stand up for herself, the empire might swallow her whole. The next few days were a blur. Regina tried to maintain her usual calm routine, attending charity luncheons, meeting friends for tea at the plaza, and smiling through small talk with acquaintances who praised her glowing pregnancy. But inside, she was fraying at the seams. Late one night, Henry returned from a supposed overnight business trip in Chicago. Regina, wide awake in the living room, confronted him before he even had a chance to remove his coat. "How was the meeting?" she asked, voice controlled. Henry, taken aback by her icy tone, loosened his scarf. "It went well," he said. "Secured some new investors, actually. It felt surreal to watch him lie so smoothly." Regina tried to quell the tightness in her chest. She pulled out Solomon's envelope and set it on the coffee table. "Henry," she began, "tell me about Naomi Chow." A flicker of shock crossed his face before he masked it. "Naomi Chow. She's a business associate and art curator, actually. We're collaborating on a new hotel concept featuring contemporary art." "Why do you ask?" Regina opened the envelope, revealing the damning photos. "You expect me to believe these are from your so-called business trips?" Her voice trembled with anger, heartbreak swirling just beneath the surface. "You lied to me, Henry." His eyes darted from the photos to Regina's face. For a moment, he looked cornered. Then he inhaled deeply, adopting a conciliatory tone. "Regina, I can explain. This is being blown out of proportion. Naomi's close to me, yes, but it's not what you think. Her laughter came out harsh. Not what I think. You've been booking hotel rooms under corporate accounts, traveling together, God knows what else. How stupid do you think I am? Henry's jaw tightened. He tried to reach for her hand, but she pulled away. Listen, he said, voice low. I know it looks bad, but you have to understand, in my world, forging strong alliances sometimes means forging personal bonds. Naomi is an influential figure. She's connected to international galleries. Regina cut him off, tears brimming in her eyes. I'm your wife, Henry. I'm carrying your child, and you're using business alliances to justify this. If you have any respect left for me, tell me the truth. He looked away, unable to hold her gaze. I care about you, about our family, he said, not quite answering the question. Naomi was a distraction. Things got complicated. I never meant for it to go this far. The words landed like a crushing weight on Regina's chest. She covered her mouth, a sob threatening to escape. She wanted to scream, to rage, but the baby's well-being anchored her. She inhaled, steeling herself. Then end it, she whispered. Right now. Promise me you'll cut all ties with her. Henry hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. Regina saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes. That hesitation spoke volumes. This affair with Naomi wasn't just a fleeting fling. Something deeper tied them together. Regaining composure, Henry forced a nod. All right, he said. I'll end it. It was a mistake. You have my word. But as Regina watched him slip out of his coat and toss it onto a chair, a cold realization formed. The Henry she once knew might already be gone. Words were one thing, actions were another. If he truly intended to break away from Naomi, it would take far more than a tense promise in their living room, and Regina wasn't sure Henry had the strength to do it. Tensions ran high in the Lancaster penthouse for the next week. Henry attempted to act as though everything was normal, scheduling date nights for Regina and taking her to lavish dinners. Yet, he often checked his phone surreptitiously, and she noticed messages he'd quickly hide. Regina sensed he was torn between two lives. When the invitation arrived for the grand unveiling of a new boutique hotel in Midtown, one rumored to be a Lancaster project, Regina felt a familiar pang of dread. Henry insisted on her presence. The media would expect them both to attend. She reluctantly agreed, hoping to maintain appearances. Perhaps, if luck were on her side, Naomi Cho would avoid the event entirely. They arrived at the hotel's gleaming entrance to a throng of photographers. Flashbulbs popped, capturing the power couple in formal attire, Henry in a sharp, tailored suit, Regina in a midnight blue gown that just barely concealed her pregnancy bump. Arm in arm, they cut a striking figure. The crowd parted as they made their way inside, and for a moment, Regina almost believed they could salvage what was left of their marriage. But then she saw her. Naomi Chow stood near the centerpiece sculpture, in the lobby one of her own avant-garde creations. She wore a backless silver dress, turning heads as she chatted animatedly with a group of elite guests, including Ariana Fisher, a high-profile real estate investor from Los Angeles, and even the famed British actor Benedict Sterling. When Naomi's eyes locked with Henry's, Regina felt the air go cold. There was a spark, an undeniable electricity between them. Regina forced a smile as Henry excused himself, claiming he needed to greet some VIPs. She stayed behind, watching discreetly from afar. He moved toward Naomi, his posture tense. Regina couldn't hear the words exchanged over the hum of champagne-fueled conversations, but she saw Naomi place a hand on Henry's arm, a gesture that lingered just a second too long. Suddenly, to Regina's horror, Henry leaned in, and Naomi slipped her arms around his waist. The gesture might have been friendly, except it wasn't. It was intimate, possessive. Onlookers could clearly see it, and so could the press. A few cameras flashed, capturing the moment. And that was when Henry's gaze flicked up straight into Regina's eyes. Time seemed to freeze. Henry quickly pulled away, his face a mask of guilt. Naomi glanced back, noticing Regina, but her expression remained aloof, almost triumphant. She didn't move from Henry's side. In that instant, Regina felt a rush of raw heartbreak and fury that nearly buckled her knees. This wasn't speculation or rumor. This was her husband, hugging his mistress in front of the world. A wave of whispers rippled through the nearby guests. One even hissed, "Isn't that Henry's wife over there?" Regina's cheeks burned with humiliation. She turned on her heel, her mind reeling, and darted out of the lobby before the cameras could swarm her. That very public embrace confirmed everything Regina feared. Henry's promise to end things with Naomi was hollow, and now their scandal would become tabloid fodder, threatening not just her marriage, but her sense of identity and the future of the baby she carried. The next morning, photos of the hotel hug dominated gossip websites, tabloids, and social media feeds. Some headlines screamed, "Billionaire Henry Lancaster's public love triangle." Others speculated on Regina's reaction and whether she would divorce him. The Lancaster PR team scrambled to control the narrative, but the images were too sensational to be easily dismissed. Regina, holed up in the penthouse, received concerned calls from friends and polite inquiries from distant relatives. Her mother, Sylvia Doyle, who lived quietly in Dublin, rang in a panic. "My poor darling, are you okay?" Sylvia asked, voice quivering with sympathy. Regina barely mustered an answer, feeling numb. By midday, the front door opened. Henry appeared, his usually impeccable suit wrinkled, his hair disheveled as though he'd been running his hands through it non-stop. Regina was in the living room, flipping aimlessly through channels. He approached her slowly, desperation etched on his face. "Regina," he began, but she refused to look at him. She stood abruptly, crossing her arms. "You promised," she hissed, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You stood in this very room and told me it was over. Then you hug her like that, in front of everyone? Were you trying to humiliate me?" Henry took a cautious step closer. "It wasn't planned, I swear. She cornered me. I was telling her it was over, and she just hugged me." "I pulled away," Regina scoffed. "Don't insult my intelligence." "I saw how you held her back." She let out a shaky breath, her anger fueled by heartbreak. "You think you can spin this, like all your other PR fiascos? This is my life, Henry, and I am carrying your child." He clenched his jaw. "I know, and I'm sorry. I've messed up. I never intended for you to be hurt like this." His voice cracked, betraying genuine remorse for a fleeting moment. "But you have to believe me, Naomi is manipulative. She's threatened to sabotage major deals if I cut her off. I'm trying to protect our business." Regina's heart pounded with fury. "So you put business above our marriage?" She could barely contain her disgust. "I gave up everything to be with you, my job, my independence, my life in London. And you repay me by parading your mistress at an event you invited me to?" Henry sighed, sinking into a nearby chair as if the weight of his decisions was crushing him. "I didn't know she would be there," he said in a defeated tone. "It was my father's idea to have her present, to showcase the sculptures. The entire board wanted her as the faces of our new artistic partnership." Enough," Regina cut in, swallowing the lump in her throat. She pressed her palms against her growing belly, drawing strength from the life inside her. "I need some time to think about what this means for me, and for our child. I'm not sure I can stay with a man who would humiliate me in public." A tense silence stretched. Finally, Henry whispered, "I understand." He rose, the lines on his face deepening. "I'll give you space, but please let me fix this. Don't give up on us yet." As he left, Regina sank onto the sofa, hugging a throw pillow to steady herself. She wanted to scream, to cry, but only emptiness filled her. The man she adored had become a stranger in the worst possible way. And now she had to decide, would she fight for her marriage, or would she walk away, taking her child and forging a new future alone? In the wake of the scandal, Regina found herself in a whirlwind of well-intentioned pity and masked schadenfreude from the socialite circles. Friends with well-coiffed hair and designer handbags called, feigning concern while fishing for gossip. Invitations to lavish lunches piled up, each more uncomfortable to consider than the last. Feeling cornered, Regina sought refuge in a place few would expect, her old business school friend, Sophia Beckford. Unlike the upper-crust acquaintances Regina had gathered since marrying Henry, Sophia was a no-nonsense venture capitalist with a big heart and zero tolerance for superficial behavior. She lived in Brooklyn Heights, far from the glitz of Manhattan's Billionaire Row. Sophia welcomed Regina into her sunlit brownstone with a comforting hug, offering fresh tea and scones. Regina crumbled, tears streaming down her face as she recounted the humiliation of the public hug, the lies, the heartbreak. "Henry claims Naomi Chow is blackmailing him somehow," Regina said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "He implies it's all about business deals." "But how can I know for sure?" Sophia frowned, leaning forward. "Henry has always been cunning. You and I both know that. But he's also always been proud. If Naomi's truly got something over him, it must be substantial." "Are you sure she's not after a piece of Lancaster's empire?" Regina exhaled shakily. "I hired a private investigator named Solomon Gray. He's found evidence of their travel, secret meetings. But I need to understand the bigger picture. What exactly does Naomi want?" Sophia tapped her chin. "If it's about leverage, you need your own. You're Henry's wife, and you have rights, especially with a child on the way." She paused, then added, "Have you considered your financial situation if you decide to leave him?" The question made Regina's stomach twist. She had prided herself on her independence before marriage, but she'd given that up to relocate with Henry. She had some personal savings and a modest trust from her grandmother, but nowhere near the resources of the Lancaster conglomerate. Sophia placed a reassuring hand on Regina's shoulder. "I'm no divorce attorney, but I do know one of the best corporate lawyers in New York, Camilla Browning. She's handled high-stakes cases, even some hush-hush ones involving Wall Street titans. If Henry is entangled in something that could harm you or the baby, Camilla might help you see your legal options." Regina sipped her tea, considering. She felt torn. Part of her still clung to the hope that Henry would come to his senses, end things with Naomi, and rebuild their marriage. Yet, the memory of that public hug replayed in her mind, fueling her anger and sense of betrayal. "All right," she agreed at last. "I'll meet this lawyer just to explore possibilities. I can't stay in this limbo much longer." Sophia nodded, relieved. "Good. And remember, I'm always here for you, Regina, no matter what." Leaving the brownstone, Regina felt a hint of renewed strength. While her world crumbled, she realized she wasn't as alone as she'd feared. Between Solomon's investigations, Sophia's friendship, and possibly Camilla Browning's legal expertise, Regina began to sense a glimmer of control in an otherwise chaotic situation. Regina's first appointment with Camilla Browning took place in a sleek office towering above Fifth Avenue. The lawyer, known for her steel-trap mind and unyielding composure, listened intently to Regina's story, nodding at intervals, but saying little initially. Once Regina finished, Camilla leaned back in her chair, lacing her fingers. "Your position is stronger than you might think," she said, her tone even. "As Henry's legally wedded wife, you have substantial leverage. If you were to file for divorce on grounds of adultery, especially one so public. It could cause him massive damage both personally and in business. A chill ran down Regina's spine. Although the idea of divorce hovered in the back of her mind, hearing it spelled out so clearly brought her situation into sharp relief. "I'm not certain I want to divorce," she replied, choosing her words carefully. "I need to be prepared, though especially with Naomi Cho in the picture. Henry says she's threatening deals. Could that extend to me or my unborn child?" Camilla folded her arms. "It's possible she might try to leverage your husband's name. If Naomi is looking for a financial windfall or brand elevation, she might try to negotiate behind the scenes. If I were you, I'd keep close tabs on any prenuptial or postnuptial agreements." "Does one exist?" Regina shook her head. "We never signed a prenup. Henry claimed he trusted me entirely." The memory made her heart ache. Once, that trust felt romantic. Now, it felt naive. Camilla offered a tight-lipped smile. "That's interesting. It means if you did decide to leave, you'd have a strong claim. But let's not rush to that yet." She slid a business card across the desk. "If you're concerned about Naomi or Henry's business entanglements, contact this forensic accountant, Martin Chen. He works wonders in uncovering hidden assets and shady dealings. The more information we have, the better equipped you'll be if a legal battle arises." Thanking Camilla, Regina left the office with a stack of documents to review. She felt both liberated and terrified liberated because she now had concrete strategies to protect herself. Terrified because those strategies implied the possibility of a full-blown war with Henry, a man she once adored. Later that evening, Solomon Gray called with an urgent update. They met in a quiet bookstore cafe, the hum of the espresso machine providing background noise. "I discovered something," Solomon began, voice hushed. "Naomi Chow isn't just a social climber. She's rumored to have connections to an underground network that manipulates art valuations. Inflated prices, smuggled pieces, it's big money laundering territory. I think she's pulling Henry into these murky waters to boost her own art empire." Regina's eyes widened. "Are you saying Henry could be involved in illegal activity?" Solomon rubbed his chin, inadvertently perhaps. "If Naomi's using his hotels to host exhibitions that funnel illegal funds, that's a serious risk. If it blows up, Henry's reputation and assets could plummet. She might be threatening to expose his compliance if he dares to break it off with her." Regina felt her breath catch. This was bigger than a run-of-the-mill affair. If Henry was complicit in shady deals, the repercussions could extend to everything: his fortune, her security, their unborn child's future. She swallowed hard. "What do we do now?" she asked softly. Solomon's expression hardened with resolve. "You said you have a good lawyer. Follow that trail. The more we expose Naomi's scheme, the better your position if things turn dire. Keep your guard up. People who move in these circles can be dangerous." In that moment, Regina realized her husband's betrayal had opened a dark labyrinth she never imagined entering. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about survival, a fight to protect her child and herself from the swirling storm of illicit power plays that had snared Henry. A week later, a prestigious art gallery in Soho held an opening night featuring none other than Naomi Cho's latest sculpture series. The event promised champagne, celebrity sightings, and the unveiling of audacious, large-scale installations rumored to have cost millions. With tensions escalating, Regina needed answers, so she decided to attend incognito if possible. At first, the idea seemed insane. Why walk into the lion's den? But Camilla Browning suggested it might be the perfect opportunity to observe Naomi's network firsthand. Henry would undoubtedly be there if only to keep up appearances for the business venture. So, under the discreet protection of Solomon Gray, Regina arrived in a modest black dress and a low-key hairstyle, hoping not to draw attention. Inside, the gallery buzzed with the murmur of well-heeled socialites and art connoisseurs. Glass sculptures of abstract shapes reflected prismatic lights that danced on the white walls. Regina felt her stomach tighten when she spotted Henry across the room, stiffly sipping from a flute of champagne, while Naomi glided around, greeting guests with practiced elegance. Regina edged closer to an area where she could overhear Naomi's conversation. The mistress was deep in talk with a short, balding man wearing an expensive Italian suit and surrounded by two imposing bodyguards. Regina recognized the man from newspaper articles, Viktor Reznov, a controversial Russian oligarch frequently linked to shady offshore accounts. If Naomi was forging deals with him, it suggested Solomon's money laundering theories weren't far-fetched. Suddenly, a hand touched Regina's arm, making her jump. She turned to see Henry, his eyes wide with shock and alarm. He quickly guided her away from the crowd, toward a quieter corner near a floor-to-ceiling installation that resembled twisted pillars of glass. "What are you doing here?" Henry hissed, glancing around to make sure no one overheard. "This isn't safe for you or the baby." Regina's voice hardened. "I could ask you the same thing. Didn't you promise you'd end things with Naomi?" He looked genuinely distressed, sweat beading at his temple. "I tried, Regina, but if I abandon her now, she'll drag me and the family business into legal nightmares. There's talk of offshore funds, bribes, and I don't even know what else." "That's your problem," Regina shot back, letting her anger flare. "You chose to bring her into your life. Now, you're risking everything: our marriage, our child's future. For what? A scheme you can't control." Before Henry could respond, a shrill voice cut through the tense moment. "Henry, darling, I need you to meet Victor. He's most interested in our next project." Naomi Cho stood a few paces away, an icy smile plastered on her face. She flicked a glance at Regina, eyes cold. "Oh, hello, Miss S. Lancaster. I didn't realize you'd be joining us tonight." Regina forced a polite smile, though her heart pounded in her chest. "I'm here in a personal capacity, enjoying the art." Naomi's gaze flickered with condescension. "How lovely. Though do be careful in crowded spaces with your condition. We wouldn't want any mishaps." She looped an arm through Henry's, subtly tugging him toward Viktor Reznov. Regina watched them go, fury blazing within her. She felt Solomon Gray's presence nearby, a quiet reassurance that she wasn't alone. But the night's revelations left her more certain than ever. Naomi Cho was manipulating Henry for power and money, and Henry was too ensnared to simply walk away. If Regina didn't act soon, everything: her marriage, her security, her child would be destroyed in Naomi's high-stakes game. Regina's anxiety spiked over the following days as details of Naomi's potential art laundering operation came into sharper focus. Through Camilla Browning's connections, Regina and Solomon Gray managed to piece together a more concrete outline. Naomi's luxurious exhibitions were financed in part by questionable entities like Viktor Reznov. Funds were moved through shell corporations linked to Lancaster International. If indicted, Henry and his company could face dire consequences: huge fines, criminal charges, even jail time. Regina confronted Henry one evening while he was in his study, staring at spreadsheets and documents in a desperate attempt to contain the fallout. "You're in too deep," she said, her voice a mix of concern and anger. "Don't lie to me anymore, Henry. Is your name on those shell corporations?" He rubbed his temples, visibly torn. "Not directly, but some of our subsidiary companies funnel money. I've tried to keep my distance, but Naomi used my signature on certain deals, ones I thought were legitimate. She's so well connected, it seemed beneficial for Lancaster International at first. Regina swallowed. Her worst fears confirmed. So you gave her power, and she used it to entangle you in illegal financing. Henry, you have to cut ties. Go to the authorities if you must. He flinched at the suggestion, slamming a folder shut. That would ruin us, he whispered. Do you have any idea how quickly my competitors would swoop in? We'd lose everything, our investors, our reputation, and all the philanthropic work we've done. I can't do that to the family legacy. Regina felt tears burn her eyes, but she held firm. What about me? What about our child? I will not let you drag us into Naomi Cho's criminal enterprise. If I have to protect myself and this baby, I'll do it whatever it takes. Henry looked up, a pleading expression on his face. I'm trying to fix it, Regina. I truly am. But Naomi has too many bargaining chips. She claims she'll go public with everything if I walk away, implicating me as the mastermind. My father's health is already precarious. Imagine him seeing our name splattered across scandal headlines. Regina's fury deflated into a cold, steely resolve. Then figure it out, Henry. Because if you don't, I'll show no mercy. I'd rather be the one to expose you than let that woman do it on her terms. She paused, a quiver in her voice. I loved you once, and part of me still does. But I won't let that love destroy my future or our babies. Henry said nothing, eyes haunted. After a stretch of tense silence, Regina left the study. She headed to the master bedroom, where she locked the door and sank onto the bed, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. She couldn't see a clear path forward. One thing was certain, whichever direction she chose, there would be casualties. In the gloom of that dimly lit room, Regina felt a resolve tightening within her. If Henry wouldn't free himself from Naomi's web, she would tear it down herself, no matter the cost. Just when Regina thought the scandal couldn't escalate further, Naomi Cho launched a calculated strike. Gossip columns buzzed with an exclusive interview, though Naomi never explicitly named Henry. Her veiled references to a married billionaire collaborator left little doubt about whom she meant. She hinted at dangerous dealings behind the scenes and intense personal connections. The tabloids went wild, speculating on everything from corporate sabotage to a torrid love affair. From her vantage point, Regina saw exactly what Naomi was doing, fueling the rumor mill to maintain her power. By playing the victim, Naomi positioned herself advantageously in the public eye. Meanwhile, the scandal battered Henry and Regina's reputation alike. One afternoon, Naomi took things a step further by sending a glossy envelope directly to the Lancaster penthouse. Regina opened it with trembling hands. Inside were high-definition photographs of Henry and Naomi together in various intimate settings: a private villa in Sardinia, the balcony of a luxury suite in Shanghai, and even the lounge of Henry's personal jet. A typed note accompanied them. Would hate for these to leak, darling. But I'm sure we can come to an understanding, Naomi. Regina's anger flared. She felt the baby kick, as if sensing her distress. She rushed to Henry, who stood in the foyer reviewing architectural blueprints. Look at these, she hissed, thrusting the envelope toward him. His face paled as he leafed through the photos. Oh, God, he muttered, slumping against the wall. She took pictures. This is blackmail, plain and simple. Regina clenched her fists. It gets worse. The note threatens to release them if we don't comply. And we both know what that compliance entails: silence about her illicit dealings or continued access to Lancaster resources. Henry's grip tightened on the photos. We can't let her extort us like this. But if she releases them, my father's heart can't handle it. And you, he broke off, meeting Regina's gaze, desperation etched in his eyes. She forced down the surge of pity. We have to fight back. Camilla Browning has strategies for defamation cases, and Solomon Gray is gathering evidence of Naomi's criminal activities. If we can present a strong case, the authorities might see us as victims of blackmail. Henry pressed his hand to his forehead, trembling. The press will crucify us, Regina. My father. Our shares could crash. We could be investigated. We might lose everything. Regina set her jaw. Better to lose everything than to live as this woman's puppet. Henry, if we don't act, she'll keep leveraging your secrets. Where does it end? His shoulders sagged. After a moment he nodded, a whisper of resignation escaping. You're right. We'll coordinate with Camilla. But we'll need hard proof that Naomi orchestrated these criminal deals and used me as a pawn. Otherwise, it's our word against hers. Regina's heart hammered, torn between relief that Henry was finally ready to stand against Naomi and dread for what lay ahead. They were about to wage war on a cunning adversary with powerful allies. Yet for the first time in months, she and Henry were aligned in purpose, even if their marriage was still a fragile shell. As Regina returned to the living room, cradling the envelope in shaking hands, she glanced down at her stomach. For our child, she thought, resolve flickering like a flame. She would protect her baby from this toxic swirl of blackmail and betrayal, no matter the price. The plan came together in hushed phone calls and clandestine meetings. Camilla Browning carefully drafted cease and desist letters, threatening legal action against Naomi Chow for blackmail and defamation. Meanwhile, Solomon Gray coordinated with Martin Chen, the forensic accountant, to trace suspicious transactions. If they could link Naomi's shell corporations to art laundering deals, they would have enough to push for a formal investigation turning the tables on Naomi. Henry, for his part, seemed a man on the brink, anxious, remorseful, and fearful of the scandal's toll on his ailing father. Despite everything, Regina witnessed flashes of the Henry she had married, the determined entrepreneur with a moral core, overshadowed now by poor choices and Naomi's manipulations. Late at night, they shared quiet moments when Henry would rest his hand on Regina's belly, feeling the baby's kicks. Once or twice Regina thought she saw tears in his eyes. "Thank you for not giving up on me," he whispered one night. She responded with silence, uncertain how to balance her lingering love with deep-seated betrayal. At last, the day arrived for the confrontation, a formal meeting set at Naomi's Soho loft. Under the guise of discussing a new sculpture commission, Henry scheduled the appointment, ensuring Camilla and Solomon would be waiting nearby in case things went south. The plan was risky, but they wanted Naomi on tape, or at least on record, admitting to her extortion or criminal ties. Regina insisted on coming along, determined not to let Henry face Naomi alone. Outside the loft's imposing steel door, her heart pounded as Henry knocked. Naomi opened it herself, eyes flashing when she saw Regina. "This is unexpected," she said, stepping aside with a cool smile. "I thought we'd be discussing business matters. And you bring your wife along?" Henry cleared his throat. "I have nothing to hide anymore, Naomi. Let's sort this out." Inside, the loft was a testament to Naomi's taste for modern luxury towering glass installations, sleek leather furniture, and panoramic windows overlooking the city. Regina noticed a small camera in the corner, likely for Naomi's own security. "Two can play that game," she thought, aware that Solomon had planted a hidden microphone on Henry's lapel. Naomi motioned them to sit, then went straight to business. "Well, Henry, you owe me an explanation. You've been distant, and I have certain documents and photos that could become very public if you don't treat me with respect." Regina bristled at the thinly veiled threat. "You mean blackmail?" she said evenly. "I'd call it criminal behavior, and I have lawyers who'd agree." Naomi's lips curved into a mocking smile. "Is that so? Good luck proving it." I have enough correspondence to show Henry's complicity in my business ventures. If the authorities dig, he'll come out looking like the mastermind, maybe even face criminal charges. Henry clenched his fists. Naomi, you're the one forging deals with figures like Viktor Reznov. We know about the money laundering. Release those pictures if you want, but we'll release evidence tying you to felony charges. A charged silence filled the room. For a split second, Naomi's mask of confidence slipped, replaced by fear. Then she sneered, "If you ruin me, I promise I'll drag you down right beside me." In that moment, Regina realized they had cornered a dangerous animal, and Naomi would not surrender without a vicious fight. The question was, who would deliver the final blow? What happened next unfolded with dizzying speed. Naomi, recognizing she was trapped, lashed out with threats of lawsuits and damaging leaks. Henry and Regina held their ground, brandishing their own evidence of her illicit dealings. It was an ugly standoff, culminating in Naomi hurling a crystal vase across the loft in rage. But the real damage would be done in the days to come, through legal channels and media spin. Camilla Browning filed an immediate injunction to prevent Naomi from releasing incriminating photos. Simultaneously, a sealed dossier went to law enforcement agencies, outlining Naomi's suspected laundering scheme with attached financial audits from Martin Chen. The objective was clear. If Naomi dared to go public with her blackmail, Henry's team would push the authorities to prosecute her international crimes. The press got wind of an impending scandal, but found themselves starved of details. Camilla's office issued stern, no-comment statements. Henry's public relations squad advised him to lay low, while Regina avoided the paparazzi by relocating temporarily to Sophia Beckford's Brooklyn brownstone. Amid the tension, Regina felt a curious sense of relief. She was no longer passively waiting for the next blow. She and Henry had taken control of the narrative, at least for now. Days turned into weeks as the threat from Naomi began to wane. Perhaps fearing prosecution, she fell silent. Rumors circulated that she was fleeing the country, skipping from one safe haven to another. The tabloids, deprived of sensational updates, moved on to the next scandal involving a Hollywood star's meltdown. Gradually, Henry's name slipped from the front pages, replaced by more current drama. Yet behind closed doors, the Lancaster marriage was far from mended. Regina returned to the penthouse eventually, but she insisted on separate bedrooms. Henry respected her space, still grappling with guilt and the near-disastrous choices he'd made. Their interactions were more civil, anchored by the shared desire to protect their unborn child. Still, the hurt ran deep. Finally, Regina's due date arrived. One crisp morning, she felt the first pangs of labor. A flurry of activity ensued. Henry rushed her to Mount Sinai Hospital, where doctors and nurses prepared for the baby's arrival. In the hushed, sterile environment of the maternity ward, with the beeping of monitors and the swirl of excitement, Regina clung to Henry's hand, tears mixing with sweat as she labored to bring new life into the world. Their daughter, Grace Marianne Lancaster, arrived with a shrill cry that seemed to break the tension lingering in Regina's heart. As Henry gazed down at the tiny infant, tears streamed down his face. In that moment, all the betrayal, the scandals, and Naomi's manipulations felt a million miles away. Regina saw in Henry's eyes the man she once fell in love with. In the ensuing weeks, they navigated the challenges of new parenthood. Night feedings, diaper changes, and lullabies replaced board meetings and tabloids. Henry remained in therapy, working through the regrets that nearly cost him everything. Regina, too, found solace in bonding with their baby, though trust between her and Henry would be a longer journey, requiring honesty and time to heal. Naomi Child's name faded into the background, an echo of a dark chapter. But the lessons she left behind stayed vivid. the fragility of even the most lavish marriage, the danger of greed, and the resilience needed to protect one's family. Ultimately, Regina discovered that betrayal could be both an ending and a beginning, a force that breaks illusions, then forges something stronger in their place. When the curtain finally fell on Henry Lancaster's scandalous entanglement, a clearer truth emerged. Not all fairy tales come wrapped in perfection, and not all betrayals spell the end. Though Henry and Regina's marriage stood at the brink of ruin, it found a fragile new foundation, one built on lessons learned through heartbreak and near catastrophe. Their daughter's birth became the catalyst for second chances, proving that even amid the ashes of betrayal, hope can find its way. If you were captivated by this emotionally charged journey of love, deceit, and redemption, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing real-life drama fiction to your screen epic tales where human frailty meets unyielding spirit. Together, let's explore more stories that test the boundaries of trust and remind us of the extraordinary power of resilience. Thank you for watching.